Good evening and welcome to the school board meeting on February 14th, 2023. Please stand as you're able and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It seems so strange in that chair.
Good evening. The first item on our agenda is to approve the minutes of the January 10th, 2023 meeting.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the minutes from the January 10th, 2023 meeting.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
Minutes are signed.
Thank you. Item number 2 is a report on instructional practices.
A large body of research regarding the science of reading has surfaced as in causing school districts to examine instructional practices and to make sure we're teaching students to read with the most effective methods. To put it simply, the science of reading supports that teaching phonics systematically, explicitly, and cumulatively is a key to successful reading instruction. Currently, the U.S. Department of Education and the Indiana Department of Education is pushing this science of reading phenomena that's going around today. In Speedway, we're feeling ahead of the curve because in 2020, we were examining options in our last reading adoption curriculum that actually selected some materials that had phonics instruction very much aligned to what the science and reading research is telling us most effective. There are there's many systematic and explicit approaches to teaching phonics, but we adopted one of the most vetted out there, which is Orton-Gillingham. The Orton-Gillingham approach is used in every single K-2 classroom in Speedway and is taught as designed for 40 to 45 minutes every day. Can't really talk about Orton-Gillingham approach without highlighting our teachers. When we decided to go with this direction back in 2020, we sent out something to our teachers and said, we're going to do this K-2 instruction, if you remember. And this was in the summer, and every K through 2 teacher in our district, every one of them, that's not true. One was on vacation and couldn't change it, but every one but one showed up. And actually the one that didn't show up got trained later. It just shows you the commitment of and professionalism of our teachers. We can't mention this Orton-Gillingham instruction and the phonics type instruction we're doing without mentioning the M.A. Rooney Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization with a mission to ensure that all students are reading at grade level. There's a person that's with that foundation her name is Ann P.H., as we call her, Ann Puckett Harpold, and she was the one that worked with us. They've been very generous with their partnership with us and our training and making the cost effective. They've even come in and modeled to our teachers how to do this and worked with individual students during this time to help us with the reading instruction. Now that we're in our third year of implementation of this type of instruction in K2, some of our other teachers are starting to notice this, and they're starting to ask about the science of reading. So the question is, what's next? So Andrea here is here to tell us about what's next with instruction here in Speedway, the science of reading.
So it's no secret teachers want to have the tools to help their kids. And so grades K through 2 are feeling really good about the phonics component that we have going on with Wharton Gillingham. And like John said, a lot of grade 3 through 6 teachers are reading about the science of reading research and also noticing the skills that our younger students are coming with who have been with us in grades K through 2 and wanting to know how they can help. It's also no secret that we have kids who haven't been with us in grades K through 2 who don't have those foundational phonics skills, and the grades 3 through 6 teachers haven't been trained in that approach because they can't spend 40 minutes of their reading block teaching those basic foundational skills. So we've used targeted intervention for those kids. But really we're looking at what do we do in grades 3 through 6? Twofold. Examining our interventions to make sure they're aligned to science of reading. And so we're beginning to, we've always explored interventions and are we monitoring progress and making sure those are working. But with what we're learning through this research, we're doing that through a different lens now. And so we're taking a look at how do we support those students in our intervention time in the most targeted way possible, in examining if we need to do some things differently during intervention for grades 3 through 6 kids. Also whole class, how do we support, we know now that that Wharton Gillingham approach has been effective across the board for grades K through 2 students. And so in grades 3 through 6, they may not be teaching foundational phonics skills, but they are teaching those next steps, which they call morphology and vocabulary development, getting deeper into comprehension and grammar. And so we have those pieces in our curriculum, but we're wondering if that approach that we're using with K through 2 could translate to 3 through 6 and if we could be getting more bang for our buck there. So with all that said, with the science of reading research, every publisher out there is making new products and wanting people to buy their interventions and their curriculums. And so we're really trying to avoid getting a bunch of different things and not knowing what, if any of it actually works. And what we've narrowed down to through the work of our instructional coaches and our principals and through discussion with teachers is a training through the Institute for Multisensory Education, which is an organization that everything they do is rooted in that Wharton Gillingham approach. And they offer a training that's targeted for those grades 3 through 5. It's a week-long training and it's expensive. So we'd like to start by sending our elementary instructional coaches to that in March. We don't have to take teachers out of classrooms and put subs in, and we're going to send them and kind of ask them to vet that training and experience it. They have a great perspective on where buildings are at and what systems we currently have and what curriculum we currently have. So they'll be the perfect people to go experience that training and bring it back and give us great feedback on if that's something we may need to explore further for our grade 3 through 6 teachers. And if it is, which we hope it is, then we would either be looking at a train the trainer model through our instructional coaches or being strategic and seeing how we can get through our 3 through 6 teachers through that training just to try to enhance how we're helping kids read across the board. So it's exciting work, and there's a lot of excitement that comes with finding something that teachers feel good about, that helps their kids and that they can all tell is working. And so we want to keep that momentum going and make sure that we're not just stopping at grade 2. So
2 things to add to that, and then we'll ask if you have questions. And one is that this isn't something we wanted to do. This is something 3 through 6 teachers came to us and noticed that they see a difference in kids that have gone through the Wharton Gillingham program in K2. So what is this, and how can we support this, and what's the next step with this, which is a tribute to our teachers. Second thing is, if you look at what instruction out there is the best for English language learners, it's the same type of instruction. It's teaching phonics-based instruction that will help them be able to decode words. So, we're getting more and more students that don't speak English, and this is the perfect way to approach trying to teach them the English languages with the phonics-based instruction. So, I feel like we're ahead of the game with it, and we have teachers that are excited about this type of approach to teaching reading, and we're getting results in K2.
Be happy to answer any questions or thoughts.
Let's pretend you were the teacher and the 7 of us were your students, and I'm the one who needs an intervention. What does that look like?
So teachers in the general classroom will pull children in small groups and do some targeted skills with them. We also have pull-out interventions, and that looks a little bit different in every elementary building, but that would be a time designated during the day where the student is going with a group of students that are performing similarly, and they would get a research-based targeted intervention on the skill that they're missing and trying to build those up.
Taught by whom?
Typically taught by an interventionist or a paraprofessional. In some cases, that's not always the case, but that is often the case.
What's an interventionist? What does that mean?
I think one and the same. Sometimes you hear them call interventionists, and sometimes you hear them call paraprofessionals or teachers' assistants.
So the key to Orton Gillingham, too, is it's very structured. It's not do this because it's something you like doing. It's a very structured, systematic approach to teaching reading. We can teach our paraprofessionals that, and they've been taught how to do the Orton Gillingham approach. So sometimes in those smaller groups, they can take a group of kids in a smaller group, and the teacher can take a smaller group of kids. So it's a way to divide and conquer.
And I do want to just add, for the paraprofessionals who lead those interventions, they are trained through the building's instructional coach. And so the instructional coaches are really present in that whole process, and they don't just train them and go. There's oversight along the way that happens too. And oftentimes they're very involved in becoming more so as we're learning more with the progress monitoring to make sure that students are moving and that the paraprofessionals know how to adjust things if the student's not.
As, excuse me. Go ahead. Okay. As we lose paraprofessionals or K2 teachers, how are we providing the training to the replacements?
Great question. I'll start with the teachers. So thus far, when we've brought in when we've hired a new K through 2 teacher, all of the new hires have also been willing to go through that training prior to starting in August. So again, just committed from day one, and they take a week of their summer and are going through Orton Gillingham training in June or July before they start with us in August. We did have a teacher start that didn't have that opportunity because of when they were hired, but that person had been a teaching assistant in the building and had watched Orton Gillingham for years at that point, and so had a different type of background than a person coming in who didn't have it before. Teaching assistants, it's a challenge, and that really does fall on the instructional coaches. So
Okay.
They're often doing cycles of that training and starting over when there's a new hire.
Sure.
Add something to that is that the Orton Gillingham approach to teaching is extremely expensive to train teachers. And it's very hard to get into. If you wanted an organization to get involved with that, it may be a 2 or 3 year wait to get into that, to get your teachers trained, because it fills up really fast. And Orton Gillingham, or the Rooney Foundation, likes Speedway. There's a relationship we have built with them, and PH has been very helpful with that process also. So they kind of sing our praises, and when they see what we're doing, it's smaller school, they can get to all the teachers. They know we're going to implement it. We're the perfect fit for them also. So when we want someone when we want someone trained, we can go to them and say, do you have another spot open in the summer? We can send this new teacher, and they always seem to find that one spot for us, someplace to send them. So very thankful to the Rooney Foundation and to Ann PH for her help.
Couple questions. How does, if at all, this, is it a method, process, method?
It's a method.
Interplay, so to the extent that we're seeing, its compatibility with our 3 through 6, how does it interplay specifically with I Read, I Learn prep in?
So in K through 2, that's not been a conversation because they're not taking those assessments, and we know that if a child can decode a word, then they have a much better chance of being able to pass I Read or I Learn. Now, I will say our I Read passing score last year was higher than it had been in several years, and
So that's my second question.
Yeah.
So my second question, so both,
Yeah.
my second question would be, this year's third graders had this method first grade, second grade. So are we seeing that it seems as if they are better prepared
Yes.
because of that?
Yeah, and I should have brought you hard numbers, but it's black and white when you look at the data. It is. And yes, the I Read's one data point, but
And that's true even with pandemic influence?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's impressive.
it is.
And so do we anticipate that whatever we would be moving forward with in terms of third grade, that would work in conjunction with, supplement? How does that work with?
Absolutely. And say we're exploring because that truly is where we are. We certainly would not move forward with this if what we learn is not going to be able to be in conjunction with what we're doing. Our current reading curriculum in grades 3 through 6 is Wonders, and they have morphology is the study of words, prefixes, suffixes, base words, how all of those can change a word and its meaning. And that's all covered in our reading curriculum. We're finding the comprehension part of that's stronger than the word study part. And so we'd have to take a look at that, but we would not expect teachers to teach all things. We would really align for them, just as we did in grades K through 2, what comes from Wonders and what comes from the scope and sequence that we'd be getting from this training. And again, it would be a lot of the same skills, but it would be how you're teaching it. And so Orton Gillingham, until you see it in action, it's kind of hard to imagine, but it's essentially a way of teaching that's repetitive, that's using kinesthetic learning throughout it. It's strategically repetitive, I should say. It's very much a routine more than anything, and you fold in new skills as you go. So essentially, we'd be learning, can that transfer to 3-6? Can we teach some of these higher end skills using that same approach and maybe make it stick a bit differently for our kids in the way that we're seeing it stick for grades K through 2.
You told a story the other day about it. You watched a student and they started doing the tapping, and you could tell they'd been through the Orton Gillingham training, because that's one of the methods, simple method that they use of teaching reading instruction. And it's just shows you that the student was reading by themselves and doing that and was using that method.
Doesn't it kind of, in a way, remind you like the old Shirley, where that had the repetition and the little thing,
It's
that
been
was
around a
proved to
long
be
time,
like so
exactly.
crazy good.
And that's what's being revealed with the science of reading research, is this is always how it's worked, and the wave came and we got away from those methodologies a bit, and now it's back and it's proven. And so like John said, I think because we adopted Orton Gillingham, we're ahead of the curve. Then a lot of schools are kind of going, how do we start this? But we need to keep moving forward with what we're learning.
So maybe Wonders already took us away from this, but do we still do the, whatever it was called, with the level J, level K, go do the test to see where they're at, come back?
It's a big
Guided
conversation
reading.
right now. Guided reading and Fontes and Pinnell testing.
Yes.
So, and there may be elementary teachers listening in who are panicking over my answer. We've not made a decision to move away from F&P testing at this time, but it's something that we're starting to talk about. What value are we getting out of that test versus some of the others that we're doing? And we certainly don't want teachers spending time giving an assessment that's not giving us the information we need to specifically target skills. So we're starting conversations about it. We've talked about maybe making that optional, but we're far away from that yet because that has been such a staple of how teachers have assessed students' reading levels. But we're learning a lot about how those levels were made, and that's not just Speedway. So it's fascinating how the pendulum swings, but I think we're swinging back to something that's really well supported with research.
And my last question,
Sure.
John, you started off and you said 3 things: teaching phonics systematically, explicitly, and something with a C. What was that?
Cumulatively, so it kind of builds.
Yep.
Builds from day 1 to day 2 to day 3. And that's really important, and that's what Ian told us and the Rooney Foundation told us. You have to stay with the structure of it or it's not as effective. So, and all of our teachers are doing it. I mean, they're doing it, and it's great to see the enthusiasm that K2 has and says, wish I'd have known this before. And then 3 through 6 is saying, okay, I want to see what's going on too. So it's exciting.
On behalf of all of us, thanks to you and John, the principals, the teachers, so much better to be ahead of the game than trying to play catch up. And you all have done a tremendous job of getting us ahead of the game. So thank you.
Thank you for saying that, and I agree. I'm just the mouthpiece. They are all the ones doing the work. So we're excited.
This is truly a waterfall of joy. Let me start here. Without John and Andrea being champions of this, and folks, we're talking about late 2019, early 2020, moving into the summer, because Speedway, since I've been here, we don't just grab something and go just because it's a shiny email. They put a lot of time, research, and meetings in before 2020 summer. We know what was going on during that time. To remind you, of March 13th of 2020, things kind of changed for us. We had almost 100%, 99% of our teachers show up during that time to be
One was going
trained.
to cancel her, and I said, no, don't do it. Don't
Cancel her vacation.
Cancel her flight to come stay. And I said, no, don't do that.
So let me build on this. Number one, it starts with teachers that want to do what they want to do something that's great for their classroom. And we pride ourselves on great reading instruction, math instruction, writing instruction, and we could sit here all day. We've spent 15 minutes on my opinion, one of the most important things that we do is teach reading and the way we do it. And without these two, it wouldn't have been there. I can guarantee you that. So it starts with the triangle of Andrea, John, and just being a champion for this is something that I hear about as I'm in the office. I hear you guys talking about this all the time. We have teachers, we have principals, we have instructional coaches that are all bought in. It's so cool to listen to teachers in the upper level say, oh, don't worry, we're getting ready to get the wave of OG training. What? They're talking about the wave of kids that we've already instructed in OG. So our problems here in Speedway is like problems we have in every grade level. As a high school principal, you get a student that's 16 years old and he's on a second grade reading level. That's real. Mm-hmm. They haven't been through the Speedway way, and they haven't been through the OG training, and we have to play pickup, and that's where the interventionists and the para and all the support that this board allows us to do. Because if you ask any superintendent, well, why aren't you all doing OG training? Do you know why? Guys in this seat, they're going to say, it's expensive. It costs a lot of money. And because we are very, very good about where our money goes into the classrooms, we're able to do this. So I appreciate you two, and I appreciate our teachers, our instructional coaches, and our administrators, and we all appreciate you guys for allowing us to bring a great program to the kids of Speedway. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And Andrea, I assume you have probably better places to be for the rest of this board meeting. You're welcome to stay, but no obligation.
Please leave.
So. Thank you.
Some sex.
Item number 3 is to approve the request for an extended field trip.
And happy Valentine's Day, by the way. We owe you. Thank you, Mr. President. There's one extended field trip request I bring to you for your consideration of the board. The request is for a routine Speedway High School soccer team field trip. Head coach Dean Haviland and his staff would information. This is the same trip that they've taken the last 2 years to Anderson. Mind you, not that they've won the conference 4 years in a row, multiple sectional championships, and then some. So my recommendation is to approve this extended field trip this summer for our Speedway High School soccer team.
I'll move that we approve the request for an extended field trip for the soccer team.
Thank you.
A second?
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item number 4 is to approve the bid for junior high Fisher Elementary School security project.
Thank you, Mr. President. There were 3 companies that completed a bid for the high school security project. The lowest and most responsive bid was from Dahlman Contractors, LLC, at $149,601. This project will start at the end of May, probably on Carb Day, with a completion date of July 15th, 2023. The objection of the project is to remodel the front office so that visitors would enter through the front office before entering the rest of the building. Security doors, lighting, walls, desks, cameras will be updated in this project for this area. Speedway was also approved for $25,000 grant from the state on the school safety grant. So my recommendation is to approve Dahlman Contractors for $149,601.
I'll move we approve Dahlman Contractors or accept their bid for the junior high Fisher Elementary School security project.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of approving the bid for the junior high Fisher Elementary School security project, please signal by raising your hand. Opposed? Thank you. It passes 5-0. Item number 5 is acknowledgement of grants received, and that total was $308,740.88. So, item number 6 is the personnel report.
Several items on the personnel report this month. We have 6 different individuals that are either resigning or retiring, submitted their letters. Amy Brindle has submitted her letter of resignation because she is retiring. She's our school psychologist. Sierra Norris is resigning her position as a teacher at Wheeler Elementary. Kylie Monroe is resigning her position at Wheeler as an elementary teacher, and Haley Goodyear is resigning her position at Wheeler as a teacher. Need to say here that those 3 are retiring, and not in a bad thing, that some of them are new mothers, and they're going to stay home with their children. And one of them has decided to leave the teaching profession. Vaughn Ross, custodian that's been with us for several years, has submitted his letter of retirement. And Evan James is resigning his position as assistant football coach at Speedway High School. For employment, Sean Bonetti is being recommended as the corporation deputy treasurer in a temporary contract. Caitlin Jones is the head softball coach at Speedway Junior High School. Kendra Pinkley is the assistant softball coach at Speedway Junior High School. Mark Chastain is the assistant baseball coach at Speedway Junior High School. And then Jacob Bryan is being recommended as a volunteer baseball coach at Speedway High School. My recommendation would be to approve the personnel report as presented.
And I make that motion. I move that we approve the personnel report as presented.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of approving the personnel report as presented? Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item number 7 is recognition of visitors and other business. Seeing none, we will move on to item 8 and adjourn to approve claims. Thank you very much.